Man, God. Well, I mean, he up right now.
Fixed witness will testify to the amount of money that was to be paid for the murder. The state has also had an opportunity to review name records of the defendant, Marquise Conway.
Shit, man, oh, Yella. Yeah, shit. Oh, yeah, man, fuck it. Yeah. And he ain't got nobody he can tell on. If I was him, I'd give up Trapboy Freddy. If I chill on Trapboy Freddy. Now I'm just playing trap.
Trapboy Freddy is being accused of snitching on Yella Beezy. He came out and addressed it publicly. But here's what almost nobody talking about this story is telling you. Freddy isn't just a witness in this case. He's a suspect too. Two men who once called each other brothers on wax are now tangled up in one of the ugliest situations Dallas rap has seen in years. And the real reason behind Freddy's silence and his sudden distance from Yella Beezy is far more complicated than a simple betrayal story. Let's start with where these two came from. Both Yella Beezy and Trapboy Freddy are products of Oak Cliff, the southwest Dallas neighborhood that's produced some of the most authentic trap music Texas has ever heard. Beezy, born Maris Conway, broke through with his 2017 project Light Work Volume 2, and the single That's On Me turned into a platinum record with features from T.I., 2 Chainz, Boosie Badazz, and Rich the Kid. One of the names on that remix was Trapboy Freddy. That wasn't random. Freddy was already in Beezy's world. Born Devontes Moore, he built his own name through raw energy, relentless output, and street-certified credibility that resonated with the same audience Beezy had. He also carried his own legal history, including a 2022 case where U.S. Marshals raided his home and found both a firearm and, strangely, a tiger cub. He pleaded guilty to being a felon in possession of a firearm and served 16 months in federal prison, coming home and staying publicly active by early 2025. In May 2020, the two dropped a full collaborative project together, I'm My Brother's Keeper, 13 tracks presenting themselves to the world as family. Not a marketing gimmick, a statement. 6 months later, everything changed. On November 11, 2020, Dallas rapper Mo3, born Melvin Noble, was shot and killed on Interstate 35E in broad daylight. Traffic cameras caught the entire sequence. His car stopped on the highway, a masked gunman emerged from another vehicle, and Mo3 ran on foot trying to escape. The gunman caught him and fired multiple shots. Mo3 died from his injuries at 28 years old. A bystander in another vehicle was also struck and survived. The city was stunned, and law enforcement immediately began piecing together how something this calculated happened in broad daylight on a Dallas freeway. Mo3's tension with Yella Beezy wasn't a secret. The two camps had traded shots through diss tracks and social media for years. Mo3's manager, Brandon Rainwater, had also been physically attacked outside a Dallas club by people connected to Beezy back in January 2020, months before the murder. A case that later resulted in a $325,000 civil judgment against Beezy. Mo3 and Trapboy Freddy had their own contentious history too. But for years, all of this stayed as street rumors and internet speculation. No criminal charges connected either man to the murder. A man named Kwan White was arrested in December 2020, just weeks after the killing, and was eventually convicted on federal firearm charges tied to the shooting, currently serving just under 9 years. But that arrest was only the beginning of a much deeper investigation into who actually ordered and financed the hit. That investigation reached a turning point on March 18, 2025, when a Dallas County grand jury indicted Maris Conway, Yella Beezy, on capital murder for remuneration. Prosecutors allege he hired Kwan White to carry out the killing for payment. 2 days later, Beezy was arrested and booked into Dallas County Jail. He's pleaded not guilty and maintains his innocence. His bond was initially set at $2 million, later reduced to $750,000, and he was released under house arrest. Prosecutors cite a $40,000 cash withdrawal around the time of the killing, witness statements, and surveillance and phone records placing suspects near the scene. A second man, Devin Brown, was also indicted in connection with the case. Now, here's where the story most people are telling gets it wrong. Leaked court documents show Trapboy Freddy was subpoenaed by prosecutors to testify in Beezy's upcoming trial. A subpoena isn't a choice, it's a court order, meaning prosecutors believe Freddy has information relevant to the case, and they're compelling him to appear whether he wants to or not. That's the entire foundation of the snitch narrative that exploded online. He didn't walk into a police station and volunteer information. He was legally forced to show up. But that distinction rarely survives contact with the internet. Here's the twist that changes everything. According to law enforcement, Trapboy Freddy has also been identified as a wanted suspect in connection with the same murder Beezy is facing trial for. Reports indicate investigators developed leads implicating Freddy in plotting or carrying out the crime, tied to his own history of conflict with Mo3. Sit with that for a second. This is not a story about one man testifying against another to save himself. This is two men both being looked at in connection with the same killing, one currently in custody and awaiting trial, the other identified as a wanted suspect. That's a fundamentally different situation than the clean, loyalty broken for self-preservation narrative that's been circulating across blogs and YouTube channels. It's a compelling story. It fits perfectly into hip-hop's moral code around loyalty and betrayal. But it's built more on inference than confirmed fact. And in a case where a man's life is on the table, that distinction matters. So what did Freddy actually say publicly? This part is verified. In April 2025, weeks after Beezy's arrest made national headlines, Freddy gave a widely circulated interview stating plainly that Beezy had sold everything he owned to cover his bond and legal costs. He said it not with sympathy, but with the tone of someone commenting on a former friend's downfall from a comfortable distance. For a man who once branded himself as his brother's keeper, that kind of public commentary raised eyebrows fast and turned into accusations almost overnight. But there's a real difference between a man publicly commenting on a former friend's legal troubles and a man walking into a courtroom to testify against him. Whether any formal cooperation deal exists between Freddy's camp and prosecutors hasn't been confirmed in public court filings or credible reporting. What we can say is that whatever friendship existed between these two is clearly over. And whether that's because it genuinely collapsed, because legal strategy demanded distance, or because neither man is ready to say what really happened, only they know. What we do know is the financial toll of this case has been brutal and very public. Court documents from April 2025 show Beezy even petitioned the court to modify his house arrest so he could attend his son's football game. The judge denied it. When Freddy went public about Beezy liquidating his assets, he added a layer of public humiliation to an already devastating situation, accurate or not. The trial is currently scheduled for February 2, 2026, with a pre-trial hearing that already took place in January. The charge, capital murder for remuneration, carries the possibility of the death penalty in Texas. Beezy's defense team has been aggressive in the pre-trial period, issuing subpoenas to jail phone monitoring companies and to multiple police departments seeking full access to records connected to the investigation, clearly building toward challenging the state's case on every front they can. Here's what this all comes down to. The title, Trapboy Freddy is Snitching, gets clicks. It's dramatic, it's clean, and it fits a story hip-hop culture already knows how to tell. But the actual public record is messier and more layered than that. Freddy has been named a wanted suspect in the same murder Beezy is on trial for. His public statements have been commentary, not courtroom testimony. And whether he's cooperating, protecting himself, or navigating his own unresolved legal exposure remains something the public record hasn't fully answered. That's the gap the internet doesn't wait for. It writes the verdict before the facts catch up. And in that gap, reputations get destroyed and men who once called each other brothers get reduced to their worst possible headline. For Yella Beezy, that headline is already his daily reality. House arrest, assets sold off, a request to watch his own son play football denied by a judge, and a trial ahead carrying the weight of a possible death sentence. For Trapboy Freddy, the situation is its own kind of complicated. A man once presented to the world as family, now publicly distant from that same person, and according to law enforcement, tied to the very case that could end that person's freedom. By the time this trial plays out, years of rumors, grief, and speculation about what happened to Mo3 on that Dallas highway will finally be tested in a courtroom, where evidence gets weighed instead of assumed. Whatever role Trapboy Freddy ends up playing in that process, witness, suspect, or something the public record still hasn't caught up to, one thing is already certain. The brotherhood announced to the world in 2020 didn't survive what came after it. And for Mo3's family, none of this online drama changes the one fact that matters most. They're still waiting for real answers, nearly 5 years after losing him on a highway in broad daylight. What do you think really happened between these two? Drop your thoughts below, and stay locked in as this case heads toward trial.